Welcome back to Your World at 10. Now listen to this. The term Commonwealth originally meant public welfare, things that are for the greater good of society. Do the Commonwealth Games pass this Commonwealth test? Is this 28,000 crore rupee drain on public funds for the greater common good? Now that's an excerpt from Azim Premji's column in the Times of India. Front page and in your face. The column raises several questions regarding the state of governance today, highlighted by the spectacular controversy that the CWG has generated. And while Premji admits that there are, and I quote, few things as uplifting as watching a sports person push physical and mental limits to achieve the incredible, the Commonwealth Games, like the Olympics, are a celebration of the human spirit of excellence. Therefore, in itself, the Games are a worthy endeavour. He also asks, and I quote again, how can we forget that for 28,000 crore rupees, we could have established primary schools and health centres in tens of thousands of villages? Can we ignore this splurge the next time a malnourished child looks at us in the eye? Well, it's an evocative and brave column in a world where most business leaders prefer political correctness. And that's why tonight I've invited another business leader and a politician not known for his political correctness to comment on Mr. Premji's views and the issues underlying that column. Joining me tonight, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Rajiv, thanks very much for joining me. The one thing that struck me when I saw the column was it was just so rare to see candor of this sort from a business leader. Increasingly, the business community has become just too scared to voice their opinion on broader political and governance issues. The fear of vindictive political backlash keeping them quiet. This is just such a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. I think most of industry is so caught up with this whole growth and the percentages and the statistics that there isn't enough of discourse and debate amongst business about really the fundamental issues that are challenges facing the country. So this article is a great article in that it represents at least some top leader, business leader saying it as it should be said.
Rajiv, your position in business as well as in politics gives you a bird's eye view of the common view on the debates that are going around. Now, this is not the first time that someone has raised the question of the priority of spending in this country. Manishankar Iyer did it as well, and it became very, very political. Where do you stand in this debate on whether do we need a Commonwealth Games in a country where there are several millions of poor people and, we desperately need to reprioritize our spending?
Yeah, I think I have a slightly different view from both Mani Iyer and Mr. Premji in that I think there is a need in India to invest in creating sporting excellence and giving opportunities to athletes that are not cricketers and not your famous sportsmen. There are many thousands of athletes who today suffer from want of exposure, want of sponsorship, and want of opportunities to demonstrate excellence. So I think the fact that we have games and that there is a need for these games is the way I look at it. And I think, so in that sense, I'm a little different from Mani Iyer and Azim Premji. But I have a view, and the view is that these games or any such games should not be the responsibility of the government, because the capability of the government to spend wisely in projects like this or any other project that you look around you is completely questionable. And I think giving 28,000 crores to a group of bureaucrats or a group of politicians to spend is just asking for trouble. I mean, I'm not surprised by anything that's happened or anything that has been disclosed as a consequence of this, the last few weeks or months of coverage, because this is exactly what government spending results in.
But Rajiv, I don't know Delhi's urban situation very well, and I can't claim to be an expert on public-private partnerships. But what is the option then if it isn't a set of bureaucrats and a set of government entities driving a games of this scale and size? Could it have been done through various different public-private partnerships, for that matter? Or was there any other model that's available? Because almost always every such game that you see, whether it's the FIFA or the Olympics, there has to be very large-scale government involvement, doesn't there?
No, so let's assume that the objective, Menaka, is that we want to give the opportunity to our other sportsmen, and we want to give them an opportunity to showcase their talent and their excellence. I think if you use that as the objective, there are many other alternate models that we can develop. on one spectrum of the alternate models is essentially sending more and more of them abroad to participate in international tournaments that are then covered here and that are visible to our people. So that is one extreme option of basically saying we don't do any games here, but we will participate and fund and support sportsmen to participate in games elsewhere. So that's one option. On the other end of the spectrum, there is an option that says, look, we will do these games, we will do games such as these, but the infrastructure for these, the build out of these infrastructure, the creation of this will not be the purview of the government alone or bureaucrats or politicians alone. We will create models which are private-public partnership where the private part of it could be the execution side, the oversight, the audit, and you can create hybrid innovative models. It's not that there aren't any hybrid models. I think it's just that there is a lack of will for people to go outside the status quo because the status quo is so lucrative for so many people.
One of the economists I was talking to, Rajiv, pointed out to the fact that I think in the Asian Games, and of course this predates my journalistic career, so I don't recall this very well, but in the Asian Games, apparently they pre-sold the flats that they had built to build the athlete village, so to speak, so as to be able to raise revenue. One innovative structure. I know that in just a few weeks ago, CWG officials had said that they were looking to find some sort of partnership with corporate India once the Games are over to be able to hand over the maintenance and operation of stadia to them. Are you referring to things like this, which maybe we should have considered 3, 4, 5 years ago? Is it too late to talk about this stuff right now?
No, I mean, it's obviously late, Menaka. I mean, we're just a few weeks away from the Games, and I think anything now to talk about alternate models is really post-mortem of the worst kind. It's a what could have been kind of an analysis, and if you go down the road about what could have been in India, you will just spend hours and hours on discussing what could have been. But the issue is, I think this was an opportunity for India to showcase its combination of private sector, public sector, the ability to deliver. You've seen the Delhi airport, you've seen examples of private-public partnerships that can create world-class, good-looking, under-cost, affordable infrastructure. We should have used this as an opportunity to showcase that capacity in India, because the difference between India and China is that a private-public partnership model works phenomenally in India. The public partnership works only well in countries like China. We know and we must acknowledge that the public model in India has failed, is failing, but for some strange reason we continue to pump money down that public model. While we all know, people who watch, people who read, people who observe, that is money being flushed down the tube in a sort of speaking.
Does the question that Mr. Premji raised, Rajiv, about the priority of our spending in any sense get weakened? Does that stand get weakened if we are able to, in some fashion, pull off a successful Games? Will this debate then become weaker? Will people forget? Or is this a pointer towards the way we are prioritizing our spending on a series of other issues, and not just prioritizing our spending, but also the way we spend it, as you point out?
I think, Menaka, the fundamental way I differ with Mr. Premji's article is, this is not so much about an issue of prioritizing spending. I mean, any modern self-respecting country must invest in sports, must invest in areas other than social infrastructure. I don't subscribe to the argument that we should not invest in sports. I think we should invest in sports. But the point here is, how do we invest in it wisely? How do we invest in it in a way that taxpayers feel that the country as a whole and taxpayers are getting a real return on that investment? And that is where we are falling short of satisfying it. And Menaka, I've been saying this in Parliament as well. We are not standing up and saying one fundamental truth, that we are in 2010. And essentially the spending model that the government adopts, whether it is in sports infrastructure or the Commonwealth Games or in any other public spending program, remains unchanged from the early 70s or late 70s. It is bureaucratic-led, it is leaky, it fosters corruption, it encourages leakages, and it delivers infrastructure of subpar quality, behind schedule and over cost. This has been going on not just for the last 5 years, it's been going on for many, many decades. And we find ourselves in 2010 having more of the same. And that is inexplicable to me. And I think it's less to do with priority of spending and pushing for reforms in how we spend our taxpayer money.
It's been a pitch session in the Parliament, Rajiv, in all the conversation that has gone on with regards to the Commonwealth Games. Have you seen any sense of debate focused on this issue, or has most of it focused on the several charges of corruption and cost overruns, so to speak?
Yeah, and I think, Menaka, to answer one part of the question of your earlier question, which I didn't answer, about will this be a successful game and will we remember this after the game? I am unfortunately a cynic, and I believe success will be defined by, it'll be a very amorphous sort of a definition of success. Whether we may end up getting 5 more gold medals, and that will be a definition of success. I don't think any of those are really definitions of success. I mean, the definition of success is people who come, see our infrastructure, see what we have created, walk away like they saw in Beijing in 2008 and say, India has arrived. That should have been the definition and the litmus test for success that we should have set for ourselves. I mean, let's be very frank, that's not going to happen. I mean, it'll be very, very difficult, and it'll be a miracle if we can, send back all the visitors for Commonwealth with that feeling. But if it happens, great.
Are you going to be in Delhi in October, Rajiv?
No, I'm not. I'm making it a point to stay very clear of that city during the Commonwealth.
All right.
It'll make me too worked up, and I'm not very cool and calm when I see stuff like this happening.
All right, Rajiv, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on Your World at 10 tonight. With that, we need to take a quick break. We're going to come right back with all the day's national and political news headlines.